Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Bugs and Thugs, and with me today is Rocky himself, my good friend Luke Perkins. Say hi.
Shut up.
I guess that makes me Mugsy, so I can just go, okay, boss. Or something like that anyway, you know. But first up, just a few bits of info to get underway. So as mentioned, this is Bugs and Thugs, released on the 13th of March 1954. It's the 705th in the series, and it's directed by Friz Freeling. You can find this on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 1 DVD set. However, it was re-restored for the Looney Tunes Platinum Collection Volume 3 set, and that's the better looking of the two. I can't show you the full thing here on YouTube, as it is a copyrighted cartoon. The video will just get blocked otherwise. But in case you haven't seen this one, it's pretty straightforward. Bugs goes to his safe to get some carrots. He's needing to take a taxi, but inadvertently gets into a getaway car that has Rocky and Mugsy in it. And of course, Bugs ends up playing the two of them all throughout the short. So it's pretty simple, but it's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a really fun cartoon. I like this one a lot.
I hadn't seen this one for ages, actually, and rewatching it now, it just reminds me of how good the three Bugs versus Rocky and Mugsy shorts are. Even the last one that was made in the early 60s, so they're pretty good. They're pretty good. In terms of trivia, I mean, yeah, this is his first of three Bugs Bunny versus Rocky and Mugsy. Now, some have argued that, oh, wait a minute, Bugs was up against another gangster named Rocky in Racketeer Rabbit, one of my favorite Friz Freeling cartoons of the 40s, and there he was an Edward G. Robertson parody, and I would argue that this Rocky is just a different character altogether. It just happens to have the same name, but either way, it's the first appearance of this design with Bugs, and it is the first appearance of Mugsy, who he is here as like a dopey sidekick character versus the more straight-laced Nick character that was in Catty Cornered. So, what's interesting if you look at the credits is that it's credited to Milt Franklin for the orchestration, and this marks the first time he's the sole composer / orchestrator. He would be an arranger beforehand for Carl Starling, and Carl Starling would do the orchestration. Now we're going to see an alternation between Carl Starling and Milt Franklin.
Yes, this is Milt Franklin's very first score that he actually kind of composed. He was Carl Starling's right-hand man since 1936 when he was working on the Looney Tunes. And from that point on, he would be able to get to compose some scores in the 1950s alongside Carl Starling. And all of those 1950s Looney Tunes shorts that are mainly well known, like What's Opera Doc, One Froggy Evening, Showbiz Bugs, and others, all those are mainly scored by Milt Franklin. And he does a really great first impression.
And it's a different flavor. The differences are more or less, I guess, subtle might be the right word. If you listen to nothing but Carl Starling for a while, and then you listen to Milt Franklin, there are definitely some differences.
Yeah, Milt Franklin's stuff is so good that you could kind of mistake it for a Carl Starling score. What I like about Milt Franklin's score is that it does at least have sort of a separate identity from Carl Starling's score. Compared to Carl Starling's score, Milt Franklin's scores is sometimes a lot less brassy, and there's sometimes a lot more woodwind-heavy sections sometimes.
Yeah, you'll have Milt Franklin and Carl Starling, they'll alternate somewhat between the shorts. Obviously, production times vary between shorts, so it's not exactly one for one, but they do alternate, and Carl Starling ends up retiring after he scores his last short, which is To Each His Own, released in 1958. So we've still got a few more Carl Starling scores to go. So, Luke, you put your name down to do this one with me. I hadn't seen this one in ages, as I mentioned to you before recording, and this one is really, really good. What do you like about this one?
Well, it shows that of all the Looney Tunes directors that were working in the 1950s, okay, so you have Chuck Jones, who is blowing our minds with different kinds of humor and stunning animation. And then you have someone like Robert McKimson, who is sort of comfortable staying in his own lane with solid animation stuff. With Friz Freeling, he is a guy who is able to embrace the future while also being able to make a cartoon that's just straight up a good time and has loads of great laughs. And I love a lot of the humor in this one.
Oh, it's fantastic. Just so many dad joke puns in this one. And we all know I'm a connoisseur of dad jokes, of course. And before we go through the short from start to finish, I do want to point out, You'll notice that this short is very, very economical, and a lot of Friz Freeling shorts recently have been very economical.
Yeah.
Does that make it a bad thing? No.
You will find out later that Friz Freeling was so economic that by the mid-50s, he would make a few shorts about why capitalism is so epic.
I will say the best looking part of this short, not funniest, but just looking part, have to be those opening titles, which are made out to be like a 1950s crime show.
Oh,
It's really...
Yeah, with the spotlight and the suspenseful music, it is absolutely stunning to look at.
Yeah, and again, Milt Franklin, because he takes over for this one, does his own thing, and I don't think Carl Starling, if he composed this, it would have sounded way different, I think, if he did the scoring for that one. Once we get past the opening titles, we do see some stylized backgrounds, so while, yes, it's economical, as I mentioned, at least a lot of it looks good, and we're getting more and more stylization even in the Friz shorts. I think he's like the third director to actually embrace it out of the three. I mean, Chuck did first, you then had McKimson aping the UPA look in a lot of the shorts released in 53, like of Rice and Hen and There Ought to Be a Law. But now we're going to start seeing more and more of the stylization in the Friz shorts.
A lot of people say that Chuck Jones was the one that embraced the UPA style the most. And yeah, but I feel like credit with that goes to the Maurice Noble stuff. And some of those still feel like hit Chuck Jones' own style. Meanwhile, with Friz Freeling, I feel like they kind of went full on ham with the UPA style in some of his later shorts. Even the stuff from Patty Freeling with the Pink Panther, they feel like the ultimate UPA funny animal cartoons.
I think you just realized later on that he can be even more economical if he just adopted a lot of the UPA principles. So we get a nice opening gag with Bugs reading the paper, and it's the whole thing about rabbit season is now underway, and it's a nice little joke. He's crossing the busy street, hey, I love living in the city where it's safe.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny is the perfect representation of an American, because if there's one thing Americans are usually like, they'll hear about a disaster and they're like, well, glad I'm not there, and then they'll just move on with their everyday life. Plus, if you listen closely, you see that he's reading the newspaper, and if you hear the audio recording, he's munching on a carrot, but you don't actually see him eating on a carrot. And then you go to the scene with him at the safe, and then he's getting a carrot.
Rabbit season opens today. Hundreds of hunters swarm the countryside. Boy, am I glad I live in the city where it's safe. A guy could get killed out there in the country with all them guns going off.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. Nah, I guess the short's now unwatchable. Nah, 0 out of 10. Nah, we can't watch it now.
Yeah.
No, of course not. But I also thought it was interesting how it's like, it's great they're living in a city where it's safe, right? It not only works for that gag, but it also foreshadows the rest of the short, because obviously he gets into an unsafe situation in that getaway car later on. So, it's a nice little foreshadowing. Whether they meant it or not is another thing entirely, but hey, it works as far as I'm concerned. But can we agree, though, that, okay, Bugs has carrots in the safe. Those carrots wouldn't be exactly fresh, I would think, being in that safe. I think we can agree on that.
If it was made today, inside the safe, there would be a little freezer that has the carrots.
You'd hope so, otherwise those carrots wouldn't last very long, but it's cute. Okay, it's one of those cute gags, right? Just don't overthink it like we do, or I do anyway, but it's fun. It's okay. Nothing really wrong with that. So we then see that Bugs wants to take a taxi, and we see Mugsy, and I love the design of Mugsy. And I actually want to ask you this regarding the designs. I mean, doesn't Mugsy look like definitely a 50s design character, whereas this version of Rocky still feels like a late 40s design character? Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. And with the cop later on, but we'll get to him soon. But Mugsy, 100% looks like, with the whole design, he's just one whole triangle, with the only thing standing out from the triangle is the ear on each side, and he is very stylized. Meanwhile, with Rocky, he still has some of the mid to late 40s animation sensibilities of a little bit of the detail on like the costume and some of the head shapes. He's not completely angular. Meanwhile, Mugsy is like full-on angular.
But even Rocky, despite having that late 40s kind of design aesthetic, he still moves like in the 50s, like very limited animation, especially on the walk cycles. And I gotta say, what a great setup for this short, though. It's a simple idea, but it's so good. Bugs just wants to take a taxi to go around the city for a bit and then come home because the bank's literally across the street from him. But, I don't know, it's nice. I like it.
There's an interesting mix of bugs that Friz does, where he is the sort of the sly outsmarter that he is, but there's also a bit of the Jones personality where he's sort of like, just give me a ride like across the nice scenery and park and stuff. It's an interesting part of his personality.
Exactly. And you do have to wonder with cartoon logic and all that, right, is how on earth did Rocky get all those big bags of, I'm assuming, coins into the actual getaway car? You'd have to wonder how he did all of that. Or as Bugs says, his dirty laundry, right?
I mean, yeah, laundry used to come in like big bags in sort of a way.
You have Rocky in the car, you got Bugs, and we get some nice little dad jokes here. One of the best ones is, okay, Rabbit, what do you know?
How much do you know? Who, me? Oh, I know lots of things. 2 and 2 is 4. Carson City is the capital of Nevada. George Washington was the first president. Got it.
Beautiful.
It's a funny joke, and I love the poses in that scene. A lot of that sequence with Bugs and Rocky talking, a lot of it is animated by Virgil Ross, and there's some really solid poses there. A lot of it is laid out by Holy Pratt, and I think there's a frame that was laid out by Holy Pratt where it's like, oh, George Washington was the first president. I think there's a image of Holy's original layout of that scene somewhere floating around the internet. It's a really nice layout.
And you know what else is nice? When they repeat a gag from an earlier short, but they actually improve on it. And in this case, it's the repeated gag from Racketeer Rabbit. Where it's like, okay, let's take him for a ride. And then Bugs, for some reason, dresses up in a turn-of-the-century car passenger or driver, because that's how they would actually dress, because the cars wouldn't actually be enclosed.
Yeah, I love that gag a lot. I love Bugs' costume, this little rider costume that he's wearing. Like, it sort of feels something of, like, the time period, all for, like, a quick joke. It's really funny. It's a bit closer to the vintage fashion in some way, but it's a funny gag.
Of course, and Bugs is told to shut up, and Bugs just keeps on talking.
On a lovely spring day, there's nothing like a motor ride to relax one. Through winding roads, past the green meadows, and down shady lanes. Shut up. Shut up? Why, cite me. You don't think I'm the kind that would keep blabbing. Some people never know when to stop. When I'm told to shut up, I shut up. Shut up, shutting up.
Friz Freeling loved to recycle that joke, the whole like, I'll shut up, when I'm told to shut up, I'll shut up. Shut up. Friz Freeling loved to use that gag so much that in the cinematic masterpiece known as The Dogfather, there is a character played by Dawes Butler whose whole gimmick is that he's fast talking and won't shut up, and they recycle that gag in almost every short that he's in. Like, literally, I'm not making this up. They do that gag a lot.
Hiya, fellas. I'm not late, am I? It's not right to hold things up. In this business, you gotta be on time, right, fellas, huh? Hiya, Chief. Can I get you anything, huh? Huh, Chief? Anything you say, Chief. You're looking good, Chief. In this here business, you gotta be on time, huh, Chief? And you ought to know, because you've served plenty of time, right, Chief?
Shut up.
Yeah, sure, Chief. When the Chief tells me to shut up, I shut up. Yes, sir. Hey, I won't.
So we're on our way to the next scene, but in a very blink and you miss it moment, we actually see a small billboard. Yeah, we see a billboard. It just says, smoke. And there's a pack of cigarettes on there. I'm thinking, wow. Now, there's an ad that gets right to the point, doesn't it? Just says smoke. It's like, yes, sir. I like spotting these little Easter eggs and such. So Bugs is like, oh, can you pull over this gas station? And he asks a nickel on that. And at this gas station, so it's owned by Acme, who's have seemingly now taken over the world, of course. And even for motor oil, too.
Yeah, in a few decades, Acme will soon own 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, but hopefully actually release stuff on disc. Anyway, that's another thing entirely. I mean, they even got for motor oil, with the slogan, change your oil to Acme. So you can see why that they're taking over the world with witty slogans like that.
Yeah.
Well, not really, but anyway.
I love the telephone gag where Bugs is like calling us like, okay, I found the gangsters. This is the road sign and all that stuff. And then Mugsy catches up with him, and he gets back in his car, and then you see inside the phone box, there's actually a cop inside there, which feels kind of a surreal gag for a Friz Freeling cartoon, to be honest. It's actually a really funny gag, not just because of the surrealness of it all, but I also love Mel Blanc's vocal delivery on the California sign!
Yep. And we get that one little delivery from that police officer. Operator, we've been disconnected. It's a nice little capper at the end, which is fantastic.
Headed west. We're driving a 52 Acme straight 8. Overhead valves. With California license plates. Operator, we've been disconnected.
But the next gag was so stupid with the train bit. My goodness. I mean, first of all, why would they get their, I guess, hostage to check if the tracks are clear when he could just run away, for starters? But Bugs, by this point, is just now going to mess with them, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, the funniest thing to me is that the beginning shot of that sequence where you see, like, the train tracks, there is a visual gag of a sign on the top left of the screen that says, "Stop, look, and listen."
Well, of course, Bugs naturally is going to say, yep, it's all clear. I mean, if you're a driver, surely you would check for the tracks yourself. It's kind of weird, but anyway. So Bugs goes on, and the train runs him over, and of course, Rocky and Mugsy dies. The end. No, of course not. They don't die. They got off pretty well.
All you had to do was follow the train, Mugsy.
They must build cars really sturdy back then, because the car, if hit by a train at that speed, but no, it's still okay.
Somehow. Bugs Bunny is also able to, like, fix it up in at least, like, a few minutes, because, like, you'll see it's like, hey, can we stop for lunch? And then a few seconds later, after the certain visual pun, he's like, all right, I'm done now, but there's one wheel missing.
Yeah, keep working, Rabbit.
Shut up.
What'd I do, boss?
I said button your lip.
Oh, okay, boss. Who's this, boss?
And I guess if Bugs wasn't such a great character, that I guess he could make a living fixing cars, because how on earth was he able to do all of that without getting new parts and all that? I mean, the only part he couldn't get was a new tire, so, Rocky makes him go the scenic route. Naturally, right?
I mean, I forgot about the fact that Bugs was forced to basically be the tire of this one car the gangsters were holding. And when it was revealed that Bugs is basically carrying the car, I busted out laughing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but we do get to the third act, though, which is at the hideout. And I gotta say, stylistically, it looks amazing with the color contrast, with the yellow and the blues.
I also love the look of the house, too. Like, you have this shiny gold inside, and then everything outside is completely blue. And it's a very good example of how to do scene focus with, like, backgrounds and staging. Like, sure, detail is nice, but, like, be able to use the space where the staging is very clear and not as distracting. It's very simplified, but it's a good simplification of a setting.
And you'll find that as Friz goes on throughout the 50s, a lot of the color choices get more and more bold, I've noticed. And we get another pun-type joke, of course. Another dad joke is like, okay, Mugsy, let him have it. And Bugs is like, okay, you heard the boss, let me have it.
I
So
love
like,
that.
what?
I love that joke. The punchline is funny. It's like, I let him have it, boss. I let him have it.
All right, Mugsy. Let me have it. Come. You heard what the boss said. Let me have it.
Oh, okay, but,
That's better.
I let him have it, boss, just like you said.
That one was censored a lot in television airings.
I can imagine, and the fact that Bugs actually shoots someone.
I mean, Bugs shot a guy for coughing at a concert, for crying out loud.
Exactly, and in a rather insensitive short, horsehair, he even shoots Native Americans in cold blood. So, he's a cold-blooded killer, that Bugs, I'd say, it's really bad. It's really, really bad.
Three little engines. 4 little, 5 little, 6 little engines. Uh-oh, sorry, that one was a half-breed.
But anyway, we're not here to talk about Bugs being a cold-blooded killer. We're here to talk about how now we're going to get a repeated gag from Racketeer Rabbit, but it's improved upon. It was funny in Racketeer Rabbit, and there's nothing wrong with how it was done there, but it's even funnier here. So, to give you guys a comparison. So in Racketeer Rabbit, you have the whole scene where Bugs pretends that there's a police officer saying, come on, Rocky, it's the cops, right? And Rocky's like, hide me, and we get all these funny little gags of Bugs trying to hide Rocky, and we get Bugs role-playing as himself and the cop, right?
Good boy, Bugs. Give him the left.
Out you go. And stay out.
Same thing happens here, except we get a few additions. One, he hides Rocky in just one place, but he also hides Mugsy too in that wonderful delivery by Mel Blanc, crying out, I need to be, saved and all that, right?
He's just crying like a kid. It's so funny to me.
Hide me too! Hide me! It's not fair! You gotta hide me too!
I must be dreaming. It couldn't be this easy.
Beautiful delivery. And the scene plays roughly like it was before, with Bugs being all dramatic. He doesn't even have to role play, but he does anyway, and the oven explodes, right? So we get that, correct?
All right, where's Rocky? Where is he hiding? He's not in the stove. Whoa, he's hiding in that stove, eh? Now look, would I turn on this gas if my friend Rocky was in there?
You might, Rabbit, you might.
Well, would I throw a lighted match in there if my friend was in there?
But the topper, and because I hadn't seen this cartoon in ages, was that the real police officer, which happens to have the same voice that Bugs was impersonating, enters the scene, and the whole thing's reenacted, and before the oven can go boom again, the boys are like, no, we'll confess to everything.
All right, Rabbit, where's Rocky? Where's he hiding?
He's not in this stove.
Oh, he's hiding in the stove, eh?
Would I turn on the gas if he was in there?
You might, Rabbit, you might.
Well, would I throw a lighted match in there if he was in there?
Oh, no, you don't! Take me with you. Don't leave me with that screwy rabbit. Oh, I confess.
My goodness, what an ending. That was
It's
fantastic.
I love that scene. It's so good. There's so many things I love about the scene. One, it's Bugs Bunny impersonating an Irish cop, but it's not Bugs doing a pitch-perfect impersonating a cop. It's Bugs Bunny doing an impression of an Irish cop with Bugs Bunny's voice intact, which really shows how good Mel Blanc was at his job. Two, the timing, as usual, it's absolutely fantastic. I love it. And a lot of that sequence is animated by Art Davis, and he is really, really amazing. Like, there's some really funny timing and facial expressions. One in particular is like, when Bugs is impersonating the cop, he's like, all right, where is he headed? Before Bugs runs to the stove, he gives one quick glance at the audience, and it's like this, I am going to screw with these guys. And it's like, it's such a funny expression, and it shows how good Art Davis was with animating specific facial expressions. And another thing is the surprise of the actual cops being there. And the funniest thing about this cop to me is that when you first see him, it's like a very standard, like, very stylized, UPA-ish looking mid-century design, with like the whole thing being sort of a big triangle and then small little rectangles for the legs. And then it's mostly a profile design where it's like a side view, and he's like, and then at one of the final shots of a cop, which is like in front face view, this whole shape design looks completely different from the original design. It's a really funny change.
That ending scene just got me. I thought it was perfect. And, a lot of people complain that Friz liked to reuse gags, and by extension Warren Foster, of course, but thankfully a lot of the time he really does improve on what's come before. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing at it.
But we end with Bugs Bunny is all of a sudden a private eyeball, private eyeball, of course, and we see a sign saying member Detective Guild Local 839th, and just another bit of trivia, The local 839th was the Animation Guild, whose members made this short. So, yeah, another bit of trivia for you.
Yeah.
And the short ends there. But before we get to the score, can we just say that I feel as though the Big Chungus has played out, right? I think we need a new meme material, and this cartoon has that perfect one, which is when Bugs briefly turns into Mugsy just for like a couple of seconds, randomly, and then just changes back to Bugs. I think that needs to become a meme.
That facial expression is perfect meme fodder as well. It just looks like a really funny facial expression. I feel like if you casually would post a random frame out of context, I feel like someone would find it hilarious. But it's a really funny drawing.
Exactly, and I'm like, okay, that was random, but I thought it was hilarious. So
I would give it a 9 out of 10. It is a delightful watch with some killer gags, like the telephone gag and the oven gag, as you mentioned. Some great backgrounds and some wonderful designs. Love Rocky and Mugsy as, like, Bugs Bunny's enemies. I think they are brilliant enemies for Bugs Bunny to go up against because they're so perfect for Bugs Bunny to fight against. And I think it shows some of the best of what Friz Freeling could do in the 1950s. It's a really great cartoon. I like it a lot. It's great, 9 out of 10.
yeah, I was going to rate it 9 out of 10 as well for me. I mean, it's not as lavish looking as a lot of Friz's 40 shorts, but you know what? It more than makes up for it with its hilarious gags, the stupid meme potential drawings in here and there. And yeah, some of the gags are reused for Racketeer Rabbit, which is a childhood favorite of mine. It's done in such a way that it's like, you know what? They may have repeated it, but they've topped it. It is fantastic. This is definitely a nice, I would say this one might be even a hidden gem of sorts that maybe a lot of people aren't as familiar with, but it's fantastic. So in any case, that will do it for this one. And until next time, guys, take care.
Thank you for this opportunity, Anthony. Now shut up!
Hello, Bugs Bunny, Private Eyeball. Thugs thwarted, arsonists arrested, bandits booked, forgers found, counterfeiters caught, and chiselers chiseled.